Hey everybody, my name is Paul Eston Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoyGreen25. Make sure you like the video, hit subscribe down below for amazing New York Jets content. Shout out to the one and only Connor Hughes of SNY TV for joining us yesterday. That was a fun episode. And again, we're going to continue to drop episodes here on the channel, so feel free to check it out. Before we introduce our special guest this week, I have to pay the bills. Let's give a special shout out to a sponsor that makes all of this possible, my man Roshan Joshi. If you are curious about real estate or creating wealth through real estate or business, our friends at XV Community hold a free weekly Zoom call for the public with a different seven-figure earner on as a guest every week. You can connect with peers, learn from the guests, and heck, even ask questions too. They do all of this for free. Free. How do they do it? I have no idea. They just do it free. Don't ask questions. Just take the help. XV Community has one of the best lineups every week in real estate investing. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Wink. Follow him on Instagram, instagram.com/Rojo Sharp, ROJO Sharp, for more details. And let's dive in. We're heading into week 2. We're on full drive heading down the road. Didn't go so well in our first tour in the AFC North, but perhaps to Cleveland will spark better sunrises. I guess there's only one way to find out. We do that next with Jared Mueller. He is the managing editor for the Browns Wire. Let's bring him in. What's up, Jared?
You know, just enjoying for the first time in a long time, the Cleveland Browns won a game in week 1 and won a game on the road in week 1. It has been since Bill Belichick. And sadly, I'm old enough to remember that, but it's good to have a 1-0 season. Just doesn't happen in Cleveland.
Well, Jared, let me ask you, because I'm going to be honest. I don't know what the actual Vegas numbers were heading into that, but I have to imagine the juicy story revenge game of Baker Mayfield against Cleveland had everyone picking Carolina Panthers. And as the Browns headed into this hostile territory without Deshaun Watson, obviously with everything going on, so Jacoby Brissett, I think a lot of people penned that Baker Mayfield was going to exact his revenge and get back the Browns for everything. How were they able to overcome that? Kind of give us the tale of the tape on the road against that Carolina Panthers team, which has a lot of talent.
It does have a lot of talent. Interestingly, the line vacillated between 1.5 for Carolina or somewhere in that range. I saw a little bit of it. It went over to Cleveland at one point in time, but you know, it was a really interesting game. Honestly, the Browns really controlled the game. Nick Chubb had 22 carries, 141 yards. Kareem Hunt had 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. The Browns really controlled the game. It really came down to 2 plays on both on offense and defense that kept the game close. So the first on offense, Jacoby Brissett missed a wide open Amari Cooper that would have been a touchdown, a wide open Kareem Hunt that would have been a touchdown that really would have blown the game wide open. But Brissett, and the reason they chose Brissett is he is going to play it safe. So he made sure that all of his throws, if he missed, it was nowhere near a defender. So it was just a little bit long to both of those players to keep it out of the reach of any defender. And unfortunately, they went incomplete. On defense, the defense was stifling. I mean, Christian McCaffrey had 10 carries for 33 yards, right? That tells you, obviously, I don't think Matt Rule or Ben McAdoo used him really well.
Yeah,
but he had 4 receptions for 24 yards. So Christian McCaffrey was not a factor in the game. And to be honest, nobody on their offense was, except for 2 plays where literally the Browns decided not to cover somebody. So a tight end over the middle went for 50 yards. Ian Thomas is just not very fast. So he was caught by John Johnson III at like the 1-yard line. They scored a couple of plays later. And then a 1-play drive late in the game, Robbie Anderson, 75 yards, no one near him for a touchdown. So of the Carolina Panthers total net yards of like 260, 125 of them came on those 2 plays. So it really wasn't as close as the score would indicate. It just was really those 2 plays. And then obviously Brissett not hitting. In the end, the Browns got the ball with a little bit more than a minute left, down 1, and drove the ball. Jacoby had a couple good plays, including the last throw, which was a tight throw over the middle to Donovan Peoples-Jones. And then our 4th-round kicker, Cade York, 58 yards, just crushed it. I mean, the ball would have been good, 65, 68 yards, somewhere in that range. for almost a last second win. There's about 6 seconds left on the clock. So really a game the Browns controlled, and the fact that the Carolina Panthers were able to get back into it was really more about the Browns than it really was about Baker Mayfield, who was really harassed all day. Myles Garrett had 2 sacks, really a third they didn't count. And so it was just a dominant win that didn't look like a dominant win.
A kicker making field goals. What is that? I'm not familiar.
It was very confusing, to be honest. Like everything yesterday, the Bengals, the Steelers, everybody,
right? Yeah,
everybody had kicking problems, and the Browns are used to kicking problems. Like there's the video of when York made the field goal. Obviously, they immediately go to Baker Mayfield on the sideline, and if you saw a thought bubble, it would be, our kickers never make that. Like they never made that for me. They missed last year. I think the Browns kicker was a 71%. Was there on field goals. And I think they missed 5 or 6 extra points. So yeah, it's really helpful. One of my most viral tweets was, I was actually a fan at the last preseason game, and with the snapper holder 70 yards, and it hit the back fence. He crushed it. So Cade York is the real deal, and a 4th round pick is going to be well worth it.
Yeah, I think so. Any heat the Browns may have taken initially for a 4th round kicker, and then show them that, they're like, you know what, maybe not so much. I'm curious. You mentioned the Jacoby Brissett comment in your very first answer. Is his his choice to not risk the football, is that handicapped by the coaching staff? Is that just how Jacoby Brissett was programmed on a lab table, or some combination of both?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. What's interesting is Brissett was really emotional after the game. He talked about not taking any of these situations and these opportunities lightly, that he really appreciates them. And you can just tell he loves football. And so Brissett has always been a pretty conservative guy when it comes to where he's going to throw the ball. He's not often putting it in danger. But we did see in both of his 2-minute drills, 1 at halftime or going into half, and 1 at the end of the game, that when he has to, he's okay at it. But in general, the Browns really, when they looked at Deshaun Watson being suspended, they look at their great defense, their great running game, their great offensive line. Their idea was, let's not turn the ball over. Last year, they were in competition for a playoff position, and Baker Mayfield was terrible. Whether it was his injury or he's terrible, whatever, it doesn't have to be decided. And so they really believe if they just don't turn the ball over, and every once in a while get some plays made, Jacoby Brissett's going to be fine for 11 games, especially, sorry, Jets fans, the first 4 games of the schedule just aren't really overwhelmingly concerning with the Jets. And then obviously they have the Steelers, and I totally whiffed on who's in week 4, but that's okay. Carolina, Jets, Pittsburgh, not real scary kind of teams. Oh, the Atlanta Falcons are in week 4.
Yes. There you go.
So that's really what they're looking at is with a pretty easy schedule, let's ease into it. They didn't play Brissett much in preseason, so a lot of kinks to be worked out. But he is going to play it safe. And so you're going to see the ball thrown beyond a receiver and nowhere near a defender.
Again, we're speaking with Jared Mueller here of the Browns Wire, managing editor. We're doing a little behind enemy lines, getting ready for New York Jets, Cleveland Browns very early here in game week. I love doing kind of a juxtaposition of having some early chatter. And then, of course, as we get to Wednesdays and installs and coaching, speaking, and more injuries and things of that nature, we get a different kind of flavor through the latter part of the week. I have to ask you that I imagine Browns fans are licking their chops, as probably every other team not named the Jets looking at the Jets whenever they play them, because the Jets last year had the worst rush defense in the entire NFL. And then, of course, heading into week 1, Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, while they were missing a few of their feathers, if I may, in terms of some of those top rushing attacks, to be honest, I think the final numbers were the Jets held them to 63 rushing yards. So while, if you want to go moral cookies, I'm not a big moral cookie kind of guy, but if you want to go there, you're like, wow, thank goodness. We thought the Jets are going to get destroyed on the ground. So now we head into checks notes week 2, Nick Chubb, who a lot of people have called the best pure running back in the NFL. And then Kareem Hunt can be kind of the salt to his pepper and doing a little bit of everything here. So do you guys look at that week 1, say it's kind of a fluke? I mean, the Ravens still blew out the Jets, so maybe they just didn't run because, well, they didn't have to, or that the Browns are like, well, we don't give a flying hoot what you did week 1 because we've got some guy named Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are going to get like 60 carries total as they try. Is that the game plan? Just pound the rock and, to try to play some old school football?
Well, first of all, any cookies are fine with me. I don't know what you're talking about over there. Give me some cookies.
I like that. Yes. Cookie defender. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the Browns really believe that with their offensive line and with the scheme that they run, obviously they're a wide zone scheme, but they run a lot of power and gap that really mess with defensive linemen. So you get them running, and all of a sudden they're just going to run it down your throat. So they have a lot of versatility and a variety in their run game. It's what makes Kyle Shanahan really different than other people who have run the wide zone scheme. Is you can't just run wide zone because then the linemen and the linebackers just take off, cover the cutback lane, all that stuff. So yeah, the Browns really believe no matter who's in front of them, that they know what they have and they know what they need to do. They also believe that Brissett is smart enough. If you get that bare front, you get that 4-4 kind of look going, that he's going to option out of that play. They'll run it back into shotgun, and they'll do some quick throws. They'll let Amari Cooper, David Njoku, Donovan Peoples-Jones, they'll let some of those guys really kind of run free if that's what's going to happen in the secondary. So the Browns really believe basically whatever you do, they're still going to do their thing. They believe that their run game is good enough. And they're also really versatile. In week 1, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are on the field quite often together. So you have them both in the backfield a couple times. You had Hunt out as a slot receiver. So they have a lot of versatility in what they like to do, move Amari Cooper around, all of that kind of stuff. So they're going to run the ball. They'll always run the ball. With Brissett, it's going to be more of the zone, wide zone scheme. When Watson gets back, they're going to run a little bit more run pass option and some zone read kind of stuff that they're not going to run with Brissett. He's a lot more plotting than Watson is.
Yeah, well, let me ask you about David Njoku. He's interesting. I always thought, like, when he got drafted, I'm like, man, this guy's going to be a superstar. The athleticism is unbelievable. And then it never seemed like, from the outside looking in, that it just never seemed like it all fully came together. So when the Browns were thinking franchise tag, I went, yeah, that's a good one. They're not going to franchise tag him. Then they franchise tagged him. And then, if I remember correctly, they gave him this juicy extension. I'm like, whoa, and reset within reason, just reset the number that I would, as all these other tight ends are looking getting paid. I'm like, whoa, that is, where did that surprise the Browns people as much as some of the outside people on the franchise tag in general, and then the juicy contract it seems like he got?
Yeah, for a lot of Browns fans, it really annoyed them because he's a lot of tease, right? Like, so I mean, he's going to literally work out with his shirt off before the game, and you're going to be like, what is that? Like, those muscles don't exist on me.
No, not on my body.
Doesn't exist. Like he got those inserted, right? But David Njoku really has worked really hard to become an amazing blocker with his athleticism, something he was not good at coming into the league. He's really worked on his hands. It's really all about usage. So Baker Mayfield really struggled over the middle of the field. That was not his bread and butter. And so where do you throw the ball to tight ends? Over the middle of the field. So that wasn't where Mayfield was really the most comfortable. Watson, on the other hand, really uses his tight ends really, really well. So their expectations is that Njoku's going to take kind of that next step. He was really young when he came into the league. He still is really young. I think he's 25, 26 years old. So the reality is, he's got the upside. And so they paid him based on what they think he can do with Watson. Brissett only targeted him once last week, but the reality is that his blocking was really key because you have this guy. I mean, they'll line him up as a big slot. They'll put him in line, whatever it is, but all of a sudden you're getting cracked, by a 6'4", 275-pound, chiseled out of granite kind of dude who also gets to you really quickly, right? So it's not like he's moseying his way to you. He's coming fast and hard. So, yeah, I mean, from a pure production perspective, probably not that impressive. But when you see all the little things that he does and what he can do, kind of stretching the seam of the defense, there is a lot of value to him.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be the opposite, quite frankly. So I had no doubt about it that Deshaun Watson's going to raise the profile of all the weapons that he's playing with, which I would have thought, oh, perfect. You get Deshaun Watson, you get Njoku on what appears to be a great deal. And then when he lights it up with Watson, you're like, wow, see what we're talking about. The fact that it was reversed is really interesting. I will also say, Randy, or Jared, excuse me, we have Randy Mueller, who's as part of Heavy.com. Shout out to our NFL front office executive, Randy Mueller.
No relation.
Brother. Oh, no.
But hey, send some money, send, whatever if you want to.
Oh, here it is.
Randy.
Yeah, it's like the people that win the lottery. Oh, yeah, I'm your brother. Oh, well, okay. Here we are. Great timing there. But, Jared, I'm going to be honest. The thing that scared me since this initial matchup, sure, we could say whatever we want. When I was in the offseason, I felt pretty sure that Deshaun Watson was at least going to be missing week 2 of the Jets game. I'm like, oh, great. Send me Jacoby Brissett, baby. That sounds great. But on the other side, I'm sure Browns fans like, send me Joe Flacco, because the things that scare me, Myles Garrett, either with a helmet in his hand or without a helmet in his hand, is incredibly intimidating. And then I'm going to be honest, I know a lot of people trashed Jadeveon Clowney. I think he's a freak. Elite against the run, nasty. He does not get enough credit for what he deserves. I freaking love Clowney. I don't love him when he's going after the New York Jets, that is. But that defense scares me. Is it as good as advertised?
It absolutely is as good as advertised. Jadeveon Clowney is the perfect defensive end for what the Browns want on that side of the ball. They want a really strong defensive end who is going to push the pocket, push the edge. They don't want someone really who's going to bend the edge, because that really just opens things up. They want someone pushing that side of the defensive line into whatever move Myles Garrett just did to blow past anyone. And obviously, Ike Ekwonu, the rookie out of Carolina, had no chance. I mean, he just didn't. But, over the last couple of years, you've seen a new Myles Garrett when it comes to discipline, when it comes to moves, those kind of things. He really took, I'll just say this, he took Baker Mayfield really personally last year and took it out on Mayfield. He left Mayfield on red. Mayfield texted him after the trade. Myles didn't respond. Like he was done with him. And you even saw it with more of the defenders. John Johnson III got a sack, and I'm not sure I've ever seen a football player smile that big after getting a sack. So there was a lot of emphasis around that. But yeah, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney really put the defense in a position to do a lot of creative things. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome are really, really good outside cornerbacks. Newsome slides inside, and Martin Emerson, our third-round draft pick, is really physical. Like, he don't play. He ripped an interception away from a Jaguars receiver and returned it for a touchdown this preseason.
Right. Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And then you got Grant Delpit, John Johnson in the secondary, but really probably the thing that takes the defense over the top besides Myles Garrett is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Love that guy.
As a linebacker, that dude put a move on. McCaffrey didn't get the ball, but a lineman tried to block him in week 1. He literally just went to his knees, went underneath of him, and then tackled Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. Like, his ability, his smarts, his quickness, all of it is ridiculous. So Owusu-Koramoah can blitz, can cover. His ability to gain ground is amazing. So there's just so much talent that unless the Jets want to line up and run the ball right up the middle 60 times, Joe Flacco's getting hit, and he's going to get hit quite often on Sunday.
Yeah, hashtag analysis JOK, pretty good. And by the way, slipping in the draft of the second round. When he was slipping, I'm like, what's happening here? Because my dad's a diehard Notre Dame fan, so I've seen like every Notre Dame game for like last 20. I'm like, heading into the draft, I'm like, oh my God, JOK, baby. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, he's a first rounder for sure. And then the second round, I'm like, what the hell's happening? Medicals? Well, you start asking questions, looking around the league, like, man, why is this guy available? And Cleveland didn't have to ask any question. No, thank you very much. We'll take that guy. And he's going to continue to prove a lot of people wrong. Again, I love Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Where is the weakness, if there is one, on this Browns defense? You're mentioning these elite playmakers at every level, from JOK to Miles up front. Jadeveon Clowney is pretty good. Denzel Ward, shutdown corner, another guy that got the bag this offseason. Like, man, there's just so much there. I'm struggling to find the weakness here, Jared.
Yeah, there's really the weakness really is a defensive tackle. When I say I think the Browns have 4 Jags, like, that's my evaluation. Then again, Jordan Elliott had, I think, the 3rd best pass rush win rate via ESPN in week 1. So, but Jordan Elliott, Tommy Togiai, both played pretty well in week 1. Perrin Winfrey fell to the 4th round.
Love him.
A lot
Oklahoma, baby.
Yeah, a lot of hype out of him, a lot of noise. Really not the foundationally, solid kind of player right now. And Taven Bryan was a free agent. He was a first-round bust in Jacksonville. So the defensive tackle room is one that needs to prove a lot. But I think the great thing for them is when you have all that other talent around you, all of a sudden you can look a lot better because you're one-on-one with a center and a guard versus having kind of the interior get the attention. The Browns are doing a lot of really creative things there. They also have the ability, Alex Wright, another 3rd-round draft pick, is a really big defensive end. So they have those 3 guys with Clowney, Wright, and Garrett who can slide inside to kind of make up for that limitation. Right now, the biggest weakness is every once in a while they have these stupid gaffes. Like there is just something going on in that safety room. It's not just this year. Last year, every once in a while, someone was wide open in the middle of the defense, and we're not really sure what happens, and it's not always one player. So Ronnie Harrison, their third safety, it's been Grant Delpit, it's been John Johnson. At times it has been Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome. Someone is making just a horrible mistake one time a game, one time every 2 games. So as long as Flacco can take advantage of that horrible mistake, which Baker Mayfield did twice in week 1, that's really somehow those mistakes keep happening. And so don't be shocked if you get some big play that comes out of nowhere. It doesn't even matter who it's going to be to.
Jared, I'm going to be honest. A lot of people were upset, a lot of Jet fans, so much so I had to write an article about the upsetness of, Amari Cooper's available. Yeah, we'd like to get in on that guy. And then Jet fans were going, oh, man, must be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. What could it possibly cost for a guy like Coop? Like, what's going to cost to get that guy? And then a bag of Doritos apparently is all it took as the Browns just hit the swipe button on old Amari Cooper. I know, as you mentioned kind of in your opening monologue part, that Amari Cooper coulda, shoulda, woulda had a touchdown week 1 against the Panthers, but Jacoby Brissett didn't hit him. So the overall stats probably don't tell the true tale of what Amari could have and should have and did do in that contest. Are they going to test the one good thing about the Jets secondary that's been rebuilt this offseason is both DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner were able to provide some nice PFF analytics. We only like it when PFF says good numbers. We hate it when they say bad numbers. We're like, oh, that must be malarkey. But when it's good, oh, wow, PFF nailed it. Look at these guys. But the corners look pretty good for the Jets over the weekend. Would Jacoby test it? I know that, again, a guy that plays it safe, but Amari Cooper's pretty talented. You're paying him $20 million a year. May want to get that toy involved at all. Will they be doing that? Or again, continue the conservative nature of the offense?
The offense is set up to take what the defense gives them. And so I don't think you're going to see a lot of forced balls to Amari Cooper or Donovan Peoples-Jones on those 3rd downs where you have to throw the ball, which is primarily when Jacoby actually threw the ball. I think you're going to see a lot of double coverage to Cooper, which opens up Peoples-Jones. So, the offense is it's actually one of the reasons that Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker Mayfield, it's something they actually agreed on is the offense is not set up to force the ball anywhere. You're not going to get somebody involved or make sure your playmakers get the ball in the passing game. You're going to take what the defense gives you. And so Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker Mayfield want to play more of a street ball kind of way. And Stefanski does not want that. He wants to use the run game. He wants to use explosive plays. Listen, his offense often has players wide open. Right? It schemes people open, but it's not going to be force the ball one place. So Amari had 6 targets, 3 receptions, 17 yards. It should have been 6 targets, 4 receptions, 58 yards or whatever it is in a touchdown. But they're just not going to force the ball to him unless they have to, or, it's that time of the game. And I'm not sure against the Jets, they're going to see themselves in a position where they need to do that. Now you might see a shot play here and there where it's just toss the ball as far as you can and see if Cooper catches it. But you're really not going to see them forcing the ball to any one specific player.
Jared, we're about to get the swapperoni. The Browns are just on the road. Jets are in the lovely confines of MetLife. Now we're going to do a flip-flop, and Browns go home for their home opener. The Jets will hit the road for the first time. How hostile can First Energy Stadium get, if that's still the name? We're sure Acrisure this. You can never know. I got to put a bell on all these names so I can keep track of who's where. But as long as it's still called First Energy Stadium, how hostile can that territory get there in Ohio?
It can get really hostile, but it can get really hostile for either team. The Browns fans are really intelligent, but they're crazy. They are legit. And I don't say this as a homer. I grew up in Northern Ohio, but I do believe they are the best fans in the world. Primarily because the team sucks, right? The team has sucked for so long.
Sure.
That stadium is sold out. The tailgating is crazy. The belief is crazy. The barking is crazy. It can get really, really loud, but it can also get really, really loud if there's any struggles. And so the team or the fan base in general is kind of against Jacoby Brissett, against kind of Deshaun Watson for obvious off the field reasons.
Right.
A lot of them love Baker Mayfield. And so it can get really loud and get really ugly really, really quickly there. That's why Bottlegate and why everywhere you go, you can't get, or you used to not be able to get, the screw top bottle. You weren't getting the cap for it. Yeah. Well, that's Cleveland Browns fans' fault, right? So, 10-cent beer night. We got a lot of things up there. It can get really, really ugly. The dog pound is legit. This is a group of people that takes their identity very, very seriously. And so, yeah, it can get really, really ugly. Obviously, cool Joe Flacco isn't going to get unnerved. But you think of Garrett Wilson, Ohio State kid, obviously from Texas originally, but going to want to prove something to his home state fans. Is he going to get a little too jacked up, a little too hype? A little spoiler alert that no one's supposed to know yet, but a picture just came out and I knew it a couple weeks ago. The Browns have a new logo on the middle of the 50-yard line. And for the first time ever, Brownie the elf, which is a sweet little elf dude that looks like he should make cookies in the tree, will be on the 50-yard line. So there's going to be a lot of noise. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, let me ask you this. Again, I know it's early in game week, so we give that as here as the final question as you get to lay your prediction. Again, we're recording this very early in game week. Injuries can happen. Anything can change. So subject to change. But at this moment, Jared, you got to whip out the crystal ball here for week 2. Jets, Browns. Browns coming in 1-0. Jets a lowly 0-1. How do you predict this coming out? Give us a score prediction. How do you think this game goes?
I think very similar to the Panthers game for the Browns. They start off, they control the game. The Jets, second, third quarter, they kind of get back into it. And the Browns salted away at the end. So I really don't think it's going to be close. I don't think you're going to leave the game going, wow, we did great. You might leave the game looking at Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis. Some of those guys have some big plays here and there. But I think you're going to look at 28-20, something in that range, where you can feel like, oh, maybe we had a chance. But when you're watching the game, you don't really feel like they had a chance. But they had this little spurt in the middle where the Browns have a little bit of a letdown because week 1 against Baker Mayfield took a lot of the juice. It's kind of nice to come back home to kind of get another one of those little bumps that they need.
That's a great point because that's what I was going to end with, saying emotionally exhausting. I'd imagine because unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever you want to do, the months of speculation we know because we have a heavy on Brown site on our page, and every day 2 or 3 Baker Mayfield trade articles. Baker Mayfield sends strong message to Browns. Browns send strong message to Baker Mayfield. I'm like, gee, I'm just glad I'm on the Jet side. We didn't have to do any of all that hoopla, but I can imagine a taxing toll, quite frankly, that was taken on the Browns fans, the team. And then when you said, oh, okay, the trade's over. Who do we play week 1? Oh, the Panthers with Baker Mayfield. And then it just revved back up. So I imagine this has been a running course the last 5-6 months for you guys. So
yeah, absolutely. To be honest, with Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson, this was a crappy offseason. I didn't enjoy almost any of it. It really did tax because the Mayfield stuff was on the field. The Watson stuff was off the field. It really taxed kind of the sanity of the fans, of the media. How do you cover things? How do you talk about things? How do you get your personal feelings out of the way? Because Baker Mayfield, he's one of us, and he really embraced Ohio, and he really did all of those kind of things. So, yeah, it was a crappy offseason. I'm not going to lie. Like, my wife has even noticed. She's like, you've really written a lot more, over the last few weeks. I'm like, yeah, we're talking about football, like not all of this other junk. I mean, on the other hand, would it have been fun to cover Cougar Gate and some of that kind of stuff? I don't know. I mean, it might have been interesting, and it wouldn't have been as heavy to do that.
I see. Very nicely done, Jared. That's why they pay the big bucks. I'm just glad we're able to carve some time out of your schedule of doing all that to somehow get it here on the show with everything that you've got going on. Jared, beautiful, man, and good luck for the game. This is going to be great. Again, as I don't know if this made it on the show, we're talking pregame, but again, the injuries. I just want to make sure no matter who we're playing, injuries, almost a virtual handshake, injuries on both sides. Hopefully no injuries for either. It should be a fun game nonetheless, and Jets heading on the road for Cleveland. So, Jared, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, man.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate being on, and good luck and safe travels to all of those Jets fans.
Absolutely. They're coming over. And again, if you want to check out any of the Browns coverage from the Browns perspective heading into the Jets Browns, of course, go to the Browns Wire. And you can also follow Jared Mueller on Twitter right there at that very handle. So, all right, everybody. Jets Browns, more coming up. Booyah. There you go. And more coming up this week for all things Jets Brown. Thanks, everybody, for